on our side, it's a bit different because as a systems integrator, we have to work a lot more with what we find and what we are asked for. And so on our side, I would draw some lines. So outside of the core video processing business, we use a lot of open source. We use Linux all the way down, which is one of the biggest open source projects. We use Nginx, which is open source. We're using Postgres, MySQL. So a lot of open source components are an important backbone of what we do. Sometimes we have commercial support for them. Sometimes we have commercial editions, but there is a lot of open source technology under the hood. For the core video processing, we usually draw a line between live and VOD. So for VOD, where always when the input formats are very controlled and defined, and that resonates with what you said, Dominic, with potentially a customer who has issues with very different sources. If the source is controlled and uniform, then you can get a lot of things done with FFmpeg for video on demand transcoding, and a lot of our customers do. And it's difficult often if you don't use DRM or have some fancy stuff that you need to persuade a customer to use something else than FFmpeg because it's already working very well. So that is something where we have the most of what we do with FFmpeg is in the on-demand transcoding world. And they're also with or without NETINT cards. So there is a good overlap. And we have been working with Ivan from Stockholm recently to work on getting the NETINT cards ready to be used from within the SVT and core project. So that's also something that we have been working on for on-demand transcoding. For live transcoding, we simply use FFmpeg in a lab environment where we just have to set up something, where we have to test something, where we have to mimic something that a customer is doing with FFmpeg. But for real production work, we are just using commercial software, and in this case, the SDK from the Norse guys. And one of the biggest reasons for that is we often have special needs that we need to get fulfilled very quickly, and Norse can provide that. So it's really great to see how quickly we can adopt to a certain situation compared with what you would get from open source. And the second thing is telemetry and insight, especially with live transcoding. So many things can go wrong. So many things can build up. There is jitter, there is latency, there is packet loss. All these things matter and have a huge impact on the end quality. And you need to have full transparency on what's going on. And that's something that we cannot really achieve with FFmpeg in the same way that we can get it with other tools, including Norse SDK.
Yeah, it's interesting, and by no means are we trying to say, open source bad or open source good or commercial bad or commercial good. It's, I know we all would agree, what's really paramount, what's really critical is that we use the right tools. And I think
the right tools for the right job.
The right tools for exactly for the job. And I really appreciate it. Resonates a lot, the distinction between like a VOD workflow versus a live workflow. And invariably, where systems fall over, and I know you guys see this because we've talked about it, where systems fall over, you get under the hood and you say, well, 90% of the issue is it's the wrong architecture. It was the wrong set of technologies. So it wasn't, but very often looking in from the outside, and, there have been some recent high profile, live stream failures, and people are so quick to, sort of make pronouncements as to what it was. And very often it's sometimes more simple than these, big things, that someone might assume. So
absolutely, but and some other angle on the use of open source that we are often confronted with. So I totally understand if a customer is using open source because they want to save money. It's available for free. But in the end, that is not always a fair comparison, because in the end, also for the open source software, somebody has to pay, somebody has to do that work,
and somebody's doing the engineering work.
Yeah, somebody is doing that, and somebody needs to sponsor it. And it depends if we are looking at Linux, where you have all the huge enterprises like Microsoft and IBM investing in it, or you have smaller smaller tools that are also important, but where there is not that huge enterprise behind it that pays it. And then using these FFmpeg tools just to save money and not giving them anything back, that is like being a scrounger in a way. So that is something that I feel is a bit unfair towards the open source community whose tools are then being abused or are used for free and not honoring that there is some work involved as well.
Yeah.